Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Actually, Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. So I hope you had a good 4th of July in 2023. I actually had a pretty good 4th of July because I noticed a lot of progress in our society, or maybe it's just because of the crowd that I mingled with this year, in terms of accepting singles for who they are. So I had a difficult 4th of July in 2020. It was a Saturday, and I sometimes call it the Sadderday in the park with a D. Saturday in the park, 4th of July for me, because it was a very sad time for me in terms of being accepted for who I was. So obviously it was at the height of the pandemic, and there was a lot of challenges, and I was working at a different college, and I had colleagues who had difficulty with COVID, childcare issues, and just a difficult adjustment. You know, most people are not introverted like how I am. And so for a lot of people, the adjustment in terms of social connectivity was probably a lot tougher than for me. I will agree to that. I actually used the early part of the pandemic to change a number of personal habits, and to this day, I'm still enjoying the benefits of that. Now, there was a lunar eclipse on the 4th of July, and I would have loved to have taken the next day off. I was working remotely at the time, but the lunar eclipse, I had to travel a little bit to see it. I was living in Seattle at the time. Seattle got a little bit cloudy, if I remember correctly. You can actually go back and look at the weather to connect with what I'm trying to talk about, right? And the following day, I couldn't find Wi-Fi. Got to remember, in July of 2020, you couldn't go to a Starbucks and sit in the dining room. You could maybe hang outside of the Starbucks and use their Wi-Fi, but you didn't have electricity. I was plugging my computer into my car, and I accidentally blew the fuse on my car. And then I went out looking for a fuse. I so badly wanted to call off, right? I got a little bit of an emergency. My car's not working. I can't charge my computer, but I didn't think my colleagues would understand. And so I was frantically looking for parts, and my computer battery was running out. I used the last couple of percent of battery power just to look up a YouTube video on how to replace the fuse. I got the fuse in, and I went to work, and I wish there was more understanding, right? I had colleagues who had home repair emergencies, and we would all tend to each other. I was living out of my car last year when my colleague had a home repair emergency, and I filled in for her, and which is nice. I get to network with other students that I normally don't get to teach. But after I got out of that class that night, I'm thinking to myself, did I just do what I thought I did? I got a colleague who owns a home in Bellevue, Washington. It's got to be worth north of $2 million. I'm living out of my car, and I'm the one who's helping her? Why doesn't she help me? What if there's a heat wave, and could I go crash in her home for a couple nights when there's a heat wave? That would make a whole lot more sense, right? And so I don't mean that I want to do that, right? I'll make other arrangements when there's a heat wave, but at least you could fill in when I want to go see a lunar eclipse, which is good for my mental health and maybe will help me one day in owning a home, right? Who knows, right? But so I had a Sadderday in the park on the 4th of July in 2020. Saturday in the park. Singles were not being accepted, right? And yesterday was an okay day. See, one of my biggest concerns every 4th of July is to find somewhere where there's not going to be loud fireworks. I have anxiety to loud environments, and which is why I went to go see the lunar eclipse in Vantage, Washington, because I knew fireworks were kind of frowned upon in the forest areas, and so that was good. Yesterday I was able to find a quiet place and not have to hang with all the I had colleagues who wanted me to join in on things. I did loud fireworks are not my taste, and that was the end of the discussion. And I really liked it. I think I'm gonna be comfortable sharing some computer games that I wrote during the 4th of July, and some other things that I did, some art that I made. At previous jobs, I can't say I was always comfortable sharing what I did in my personal life. So I'm so glad at the progress that has happened in recent years. It could also just be a different crowd that I'm hanging with today compared to 3 years ago when I had a Saturday in the park. By the way, when 4th of July falls on a Saturday and there's a lunar eclipse, it tends to bring a pandemic for some reason. The last time it happened was in 1917, and then it happened again in 2020. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Dislike or like show, depending on how you want to see it. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. I kind of like that gesture. Let me do it again. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum.